So then you have Imam al-Tirmidhi is the next, who's extremely important, and this is his Jami'. This is a really important collection because this is where they begin to really want to get the hadiths that are directly related to ahkam, especially, and things that the fuqaha are going to need. They say the muhaddithun are sayadila, and the fuqaha are the atibba. So the muhaddithun are like the pharmacists. They prepare the drugs, right? The medicine, but it's the doctor who diagnoses and then prescribes. So they see the muhaddithun aren't necessarily fuqaha. And this is something that is really important distinction in our tradition. There's a lot of mistakes that are made because we don't differentiate between a da'iyah and a faqih and a mutafaqih, like a musharik fil fiqh, a muhaddith, a qari. In Al-Azhar, they actually have different colors on their turbans to determine who the qurra are. In other words, they just memorize Quran. They're not really ulama. So a lot of confusion is created from this. And then the word alim is a word that traditionally was not given easily, to call somebody alim. Allama was even more rare, because somebody who's an allama really genuinely will know most of the sciences of Islam. And it's something that a really brilliant person with a very prodigious memory could do. Our tradition can be mastered. I mean, they can't know everything, but it can be mastered. And there are masters. They'll tend to have some area of expertise, like usul al-fiqh or tafsir. But if you look at somebody like Qurtubi he knows hadith, he knows tafsir, obviously, he's a faqih, he knew the qira'at. I mean, all of these, he knew sirah, he knew tarikh, all these sciences. So the great ulama of our tradition are polymaths, and that's really important to remember. The du'at are more, they're people that, they might have some level of knowledge, but they're more people that preach the religion to, and they're storytellers, the qasim. There's a famous story of Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi, on his way to Medina to study with Malik, was in a caravan, and there was a very pious man in the caravan who used to get up after the prayers and he would do a wa'adh, he would do exhortation. And people would cry, like he had a real effect on people. And but when they got to Medina, they went into the masjid, and when the prayer ended, he got up to do that, and the little kids started throwing things at him. And then they took him out of the masjid. And Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi asked, like, what happened? And he said, Imam Malik doesn't allow the qusas, like a qas, a storyteller, he doesn't allow them in the masjid of the Prophet. There's no storytellers. Because it was a place of ilm, tafsir, hadith. It wasn't a place of, the wa'adh is on Friday, but it's not, you don't get up and do those. So that was the early period. They didn't really look too kindly at these type people that were more sha'bi people. They were very serious about their knowledge. So Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, let me backtrack. Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi, then when he went to Malik's majlis, he was there studying, and somebody came in with news that an elephant in the caravan had come into the city. So everybody ran out to see the elephant. And Imam Malik looked at Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi and he said, don't you want to see the elephant? He said, I didn't come from Spain to see elephants. I came. ما أتيت لأرى الأفيال أتيت لأخذ عن الرجال. Yeah, I came here to learn. And Malik da'a lahu. So his recension, and he wasn't the most learned. I mean, Shaybani is more learned than Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi. But his recension has the tawfiq. So it's the one that got this tawfiq. So you have to have dabt, the naqal, And these were the criteria for the soundness of the hadith. And Imam al-Bukhari, even though he has about 160 of the mu'allaq traditions, they've all been shown to be that they're all connected by chains. So everything in there is considered sahih. Somebody is one of these horrible people that love to follow everything I do and then try to find mistakes and then put it up on. They do these little clips. They put this thing where I said that the Al-Bukhari wasn't. Wasn't everything in it wasn't sahih. That's not true. I never said that. What I said is ahad hadith are probable hadith, which is why they're not used according to the majority of our ulama in aqeedah. Right? There are many ahad hadith in the sahih collection. It doesn't mean they're not sahih. They are sahih. But there's always a possibility in the ahad hadith that there could be error because they're human beings. The hadith tradition does not have the hifz of the Quran. And every Muslim in our tradition has recognized that, which is why there are fabricated hadiths, there are weak hadiths, there are hasan hadiths, and then there are sahih hadiths, and then there's really strong sahih hadiths like muttafaq alayh, and then there's mutawatir hadith which have the same maqam as the ayah of Quran, if it's mutawatir, which is a small number of hadith that are what we would call historically factual. A mutawatir hadith is like a historical fact. It's just too many people relate it that it could have been made up. And they've been collected. Imam Suyuti has a collection of that. There are a few. Imam al-Kattani did a collection of the mutawatir hadith. But there are not that many that are mutawatir. So that's just important to note. It's an absolutely sahih collection. There's no doubt about that. We shouldn't have any doubt about the hadith that's in Sahih Bukhari. But in terms of aqeedah, then there's a higher standard because it's about God. And so there's not going to be any room for mistakes when it comes to, and that's why our aqeedah is first and foremost, Quran is the foundation of the aqeedah in our tradition. The rational creed, which you study here, is the whole purpose of a rational creed, which are the ilahiyat and the nabuwat, not the sam'iyat, because the sam'iyat are not part of the rational creed. It's the ilahiyat and the nabuwat. These are based on the human intellect. In other words, what are the attributes absolutely necessary for God? What will reason determine to be absolutely necessary for the ultimate being, the ultimate reality? And that's where you get these 20 attributes. That's where they come from. Even though they're substantiated by the Quran, they're actually rational arguments. And the idea behind that is you don't fall into a circular reasoning. That was the purpose of that. It's to get people out of a circular. Why do you believe in God? Because Quran says so. Well, how do you know? That's because God revealed the Quran. You get into a circular reasoning. So that's why taqleed, this idea of taqleed, like to know God and His Messenger with nadar, like to actually think about it, to get out of taqleed. So that was something that our ulama said, that we need to have absolutely sound hadith without any probable error in them. Other than that, the second thing that I would point out about Imam al-Bukhari is the Sahih tradition is in some ways a reaction to Imam al-Shafi'i. Because Imam Shafi'i departed from his teacher's methodology. So the methodology of Imam Malik was that he would actually he would take the amal of the people of Medina over solitary hadith. This is called amal ahl al-Medina. His argument was, if he found, and he had 600 teachers from the tabi'een, in his lifetime. The argument was, if he found dozens of the tabi'een doing the same practice, then for him, they saw it from the Sahaba in Medina, because there's 10,000 people buried there. So he saw it from the Sahaba. So he's saying, I'm going to take the fact that the righteous people are fasting on Friday, and there's a solitary hadith where Naha Rasulullah an al-Siyam Yawm al-Jumu'ah. He said, I don't feel comfortable going to that solitary hadith and rejecting something that all of the people here saw the Prophet doing. Maybe the hadith was abrogated. Maybe the hadith was khasisa, it was for a specific person. He preferred the amal, and that's why it's mutawatir for him. Imam Shafi'i didn't agree with that when he went to Iraq and then to Egypt. So he actually, and famously said, إِذَا صَحَ الْحَدِيث فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. But that shouldn't be taken blanket the way a lot of modern people take that. It shouldn't be taken like that. So Imam Shafi'i, radiallahu anhu, he wanted to find the soundest opinion, soundest hadith to base that judgment on. Imam Malik would take a sahih hadith, but he would prefer, like the adhan in Medina is different from the adhan in Mecca. And he was asked about it. And he said, I don't know what they do in Mecca, but here's what they do here. And that's why the adhan of the Malikis is different from the adhan that's done in other parts of the Muslim world. Many other examples of that with Imam Malik. So in response to that, the idea was, let's find the soundest hadiths, collect them all, because there were traditions where Imam Malik, for instance, Ibn Wahb, who was one of Malik's students, Ibn Wahb, once somebody asked Imam Malik about, going between the toes in the wudu. And he made a remark, and then Ibn Wahb said that he has a hadith that he got from Egypt, that he recited, and Malik said, I didn't know that hadith. And so that's one of the arguments of the Ahl al-Hadith, is that the Imams didn't know all the hadiths of ahkam. But if you look, and this is really important to remember, because this is one of the big confusions about our modern Muslims. The madhabs are not the isolated opinions of the Imams. The Hanafi madhab is not the opinion of Abu Hanifa always, but it's the methodology of Abu Hanifa. The madhab of Imam Malik is not the opinion necessarily of Malik. Malik's opinion, for instance, was you didn't raise your hands in dua. He didn't raise his hands in dua. That's his opinion. Malik's opinion was that Quran does not benefit the dead. So he doesn't recite Fatiha in the janazah, Salat al-Janazah. So there are many examples of this in, So that's a big problem, is people don't know that the Imams, it's a school with a methodology. All of the hadith of ahkam are known by all four madhabs. They know all the hadith. It's a matter of what's the methodology to determine that. So Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu has his methodology. So he won't take a hadith related to fiqh, for instance, of Abu Hurairah, if it differs from his methodology. But why? Because he's not amongst the fuqaha of the Sahaba. So these are the methodologies that if we don't learn the methodology of our madhab, we won't understand why they differ from the other madhabs, and you won't appreciate the ikhtilaf. So it's one of the great blessings of the ummah, is the ikhtilaf. And we, getting back to what I said about not having the majami', in the history of Islam, we are the only world religion that has a normative tradition with such difference of opinion. No other religion has that, a world religion. Judaism is arguably a religion for one ethnic group. But in terms of the world religions, we're the only one that our normative tradition incorporates difference of opinion. The Christians had to split because they could not absorb difference of opinion in one normative tradition. So you have Catholics and Protestants, and then the Protestants, because their methodology, they opened up a myriad of sectarianism. So this book, which inshallah I wanted to go over, I read this book with Sheikh Muhammad al-Yaqubi in its entirety, and it's one of my favorite books. He also wrote a beautiful commentary on this, Ibn Abi Jamra, who was an Andalusian originally, but he ends up in Egypt. He's from the famous tribe of Al-Azd, which is one of the great Yemeni tribes. His student is Ibn al-Hajj al-Abdari, who was a great scholar originally from Fez, who ends up in Egypt. And Ibn Abi Jamra, one of the most beautiful stories about him was Ibn al-Hajj came to him and said he wanted to study with him. And he said, I don't have anything to teach you. He said, no, I want to study with you. And he kept coming back, and finally Ibn Abi Jamra said to him, I'll sit with you, and under one condition, we study together. And Allah is our teacher. That was the condition that he stipulated. He's a very humble man. He wrote this book. It has a tawfiq that's amazing. He did it because he wanted people to memorize at least something from Al-Bukhari. And then he did an amazing commentary on it called Bahjat al-Nufus. In our tradition, we have what are called blurbs, where somebody writes something like, oh, you should read this book because it's amazing. He has 70, at the end of his book, he has 70 visions of the Prophet ﷺ where people saw the Prophet ﷺ and told, and the Prophet ﷺ told them, if you want to understand my sunnah, then read Ibn Abi Jamra's commentary on Al-Bukhari. 70 visions from all different. So he wrote this book. He's an amazing scholar, and he begins it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قال العبد الفقير أنتم الفقراء. Allah tells us that we're all. So قال العبد الفقير إلى ربه عبد الله ابن سعد بن أبي جمرة الأزدي رحمه الله تعالى الحمد لله حق حمده والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الخيرة من خلقه وعلى صحابته السادة المختارين لصحبته. So beginning with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and prayers upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the choicest of his creation, and upon his Sahaba, the Sadat al-Mukhtarin, those chosen Sada for his companionship. وبعد فلما كان الحديث وحفظه من أقرب الوسائل إلى الله عز وجل بمقتضى الآثار في ذلك. When the Hadith study and memorization of the Hadith is one of the quickest means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based upon many athar in that. فمنها قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أدى إلى أمتي حديثا واحدا يقيم به سنة أو يرد بدعة فله الجنة. Whoever delivers to my ummah one hadith, that by it a sunnah is established or an innovation is refuted, for him will be paradise. ومنها قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حفظ على أمتي حديثا واحدا كان له أجر 71 نبيا صديقا. I mean, these are فضائل الأعمال. So والآثار في ذلك كثيرة. There are many athar. The ulama say that for weak, hadiths that have weak, that they're good for the fadail al-amal. We don't use them for aqidah. We don't use them for ahkam. Ahmed ibn Hanbal used the Hasan hadith he preferred, which at his time was called a da'if hadith. So when people say حسن يفضل Imam Ahmad يفضل الضعيف على القياس is not totally accurate. In any case, Fadail al-A'mal, there are many hadiths that are beautiful and useful, and they're not thrown out for that reason. The modern kind of reaction against weak hadiths is not something that was part of the ummah traditionally. The fuqaha were very rigorous about ahkam, but in things like these type of hadith, they were much easier with them. وَرَأَيْتَ الْهِمَمْ قَدْ قَصُرَتْ. So he says, I've seen the himam have weakened. So he's already saying this. Ibn Abi Jamra, right, he dies 699. So he's already saying people's, their himam is weak. In fact, when he said, he related a hadith about all the signs of the end of time, and he said, we see all these signs now in our time. So he's 699 in Egypt, and he's already seeing the signs of the end of time. So, and that's why Imam al-Laqani says, وَعَنَ التَّطْوِيلِ كَلَّةَ الْهِمَمْ فَصَارِ فِيهِ الْاخْتِصَارُ مُلْتَزَمٌ. Because the himam are weak, abridgments are necessary these days. Hence, he took the al-Bukhari and abridged it to a much shorter version here. So he said, so قصرت الهمم عن حفظها مع كثرة كتبها من أجل أسانيدها. There's a lot of books now and they have all these chains. فرأيت أن آخذ من أصحها كتابا واختصر منه أحاديث بحسب حاجتي إليها. So I considered to take the soundest book and then abridge it based on the need of the hadith, واختصر أسانيدها, and to shorten their chains, ما عدا راوي الحديث فلا بد منه, except for the rawi, because he said that's فلا بد منه. And traditionally, I mean, may Allah forgive us, but traditionally, you know, hadith should be related with at least the rawi. You know, that was the tradition. واختصروا أسانيدها معا فيسهل حفظها وتكثر الفائدة فيها إن شاء الله تعالى. فوقع لي أن يكون كتاب البخاري لكونه من أصحها ولكونه رحمه الله تعالى كان من الصالحين وكان مجاب الدعوة ودعا لقارئه. It's said that when the fitna broke out, he actually made a dua and he asked Allah to take him. فَقْبِدْنِي إِلَيْكَ. And the only time I've ever seen in any of our tradition where the Prophet made dua for death was in time of fitna, right? وَإِذَا أَرَدْتَ بِالنَّاسِ فِتْنَةً فَقْبِدْنِي إِلَيْكَ غَيْرَ مَفْتُونَ. So take me to yourself. In other words, if civil war is about to break out, let me die before I see it. So he saw the fitna and he made a dua. Within 1 month he was dead. And he relates in the Sahih, لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت. None of you should desire death, right? But لِضَرَرًا يُصِيبُهُ, because of some harm that afflicted him.